Do you remember the first time you saw The Breakfast Club? The five strangers sitting in silence, the echo of a closing library door. The faint hum of rebellion under fluorescent light. It was 1985, yet somehow it felt eternal. A brain, an athlete, a princess, a criminal, and a basket case trapped together for one Saturday that would change them and us forever. But behind that familiar story lies another hidden one. A tapestry of strange coincidences, forgotten footage, and choices that nearly derailed the film before it began. Some moments were improvised. Others were saved by instinct or luck. Together they built a movie that defined a generation without ever meaning to. So today, we open the time capsule and uncover 12 little-known facts that reveal how a simple detention story became one of cinema's most enduring portraits of youth. Fact number 12. Molly Ringwald saved the movie before it even started. It's hard to imagine The Breakfast Club opening any other way than with five mismatched teenagers walking into detention. Yet in its earliest draft, the film nearly began with something deeply uncomfortable, a voyeuristic subplot involving Principal Vernon peeping into the girls' locker room. It was 1984, a time when comedy often pushed boundaries carelessly, and the notion of harmless humor excused much worse. But Molly Ringwald, still in her teens and fresh from 16 Candles, read the scene and refused to let it pass. She, along with co-star Ali Sheedy and producer Michelle Manning, urged writer-director John Hughes to cut it. Their protest didn't just protect the movie, it redefined it. The film's strength lay in empathy, not exploitation. In a decade that often misunderstood young women, Ringwald's intuition gave the story its moral center. Years later, she reflected in an essay that Hughes had blind spots when writing about gender and power. But his willingness to listen allowed something rare in Hollywood, a course correction before damage was done. Her stand transformed The Breakfast Club from another teen comedy into a story that respected the pain and dignity of its characters. Without that decision, the film might have aged like so many others, a relic of tone-deaf humor instead of a timeless, coming-of-age classic. Fact number 11. The lost 50 minutes of forgotten footage decades after the film's release, fans thought they knew every corner of Shermer High. Then in 2017, the Criterion Collection unearthed nearly 50 minutes of unseen material glimpses, of alternate takes, small exchanges, and one curious scene in the girls' bathroom where Claire criticizes Allison for eating chips near a sink. It was a moment of absurd intimacy, the kind of detail that made Hughes's characters feel real. For 30 years, it had been locked in a vault unseen since 1985. When this footage finally appeared, it felt like a time capsule cracked open, not just a deleted scene, but a window into the quieter, awkward moments that define adolescence. The restoration also reminded audiences how fragile film history can be. Celluloid degrades, cultural memory fades, but digital preservation brings it back to life, letting a new generation rediscover what their parents once loved on VHS. The rediscovery coincided with the global wave of 1980s nostalgia, sparked by shows like Stranger Things, where misfits and fluorescent lockers returned to pop culture. Suddenly, The Breakfast Club wasn't just a movie, it was a shared memory of rebellion and self-discovery. And thanks to a few forgotten reels of film, audiences could step once more into that warm, chaotic Saturday detention that taught them to see themselves in others. Fact number 10. The David Bowie quote came from Ali Sheedy. Every generation needs its anthem, and for The Breakfast Club, that anthem came from an unexpected voice. The film opens with a haunting line from David Bowie's Changes, and these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds. It sets a tone of quiet rebellion of youth standing at the edge of transformation. Yet that line wasn't written into the script by John Hughes. It came from actress Ali Sheedy. During filming, Sheedy casually mentioned the lyrics, saying, "It captured everything the story stood for, the friction between generations, the pain of being dismissed by adults who had forgotten their own teenage fire." Hughes loved it so much that he placed it at the film's opening. It became the film's thesis statement: rebellion isn't arrogance, it's survival. In 1985, when America was caught between the optimism of Reagan-era prosperity and the cynicism of MTV realism, that Bowie lyric became prophetic. It turned 5 teenagers in a library into the voice of a misunderstood generation. Bowie's words. Sheedy's insight and Hughes's instinct collided to create an opening so perfect that it still gives audiences goosebumps 40 years later, proof that sometimes the soul of a film can come from a spontaneous conversation on set. Fact number 9. John Hughes made a silent cameo. John Hughes had a habit of sneaking into his own worlds, much like Alfred Hitchcock, whom he deeply admired. In The Breakfast Club, his cameo arrives so quietly that most viewers miss it entirely. At the film's end, when Anthony Michael Hall's character Brian Johnson gets picked up after detention, the driver waiting behind the wheel is none other than Hughes himself. No lines, no flourish, just a small nod to the creator, watching his own creation return to the real world. It was fitting. Hughes had spent his career building fictional Chicago suburbs, like Shermer Places, that mirrored the emotional topography of American adolescence. His films Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink were all linked by the same streets, the same high schools, the same ache of growing up. That cameo wasn't ego, it was farewell. Hughes positioned himself as the silent father figure, bridging the generational divide he explored so tenderly on screen. In retrospect, his brief appearance feels symbolic, the unseen adult presence watching youth break free. Decades later, film historians would call it Hughes's signature gesture, placing himself just far enough from his characters to let them find their own truth. Like a parent letting go of a child, he simply drove away, leaving behind a story that never stopped moving. Fact number 8. Carl the janitor's hidden past. Every story needs a philosopher, and in The Breakfast Club, that figure wasn't one of the students, but the janitor, Carl. At first glance, he was comic relief, sweeping floors and sparring with the irritable Principal Vernon. Yet, if one looks closely during the opening credits, a small plaque on the wall reads, "Shermer High School Man of the Year, 1969. That tiny background detail changed everything. It revealed that Carl wasn't always invisible. He was once the pride of Shermer High, celebrated during the same era that sent men to the moon and music to Woodstock. His life had seen triumph before, fading into obscurity, a reflection of what time does to all youthful promise. That detail, subtle and deliberate, turned the film's janitor into a symbol of lost potential and the passage from glory to anonymity. When Carl tells the students that adults forget what it's like to be young, his words carry the weight of experience. He isn't mocking them, he's warning them. Life moves quickly. Dreams decay quietly. The hallway that once echoed their names will one day not remember them at all. Hughes gave Carl this silent tragedy to remind every viewer that growing up isn't just about rebellion, it's also about realizing how fragile recognition really is. Fact number 7. The library that wasn't a library. The entire story unfolds inside the supposed library of Shermer High. But what millions of viewers saw was an illusion. The library never existed. The real school, Maine North High in Illinois, had closed years earlier, and its library was far too small for filming. So production designer John Kapelos and his team did something extraordinary. They built an entirely new library inside the school's gymnasium. They raised walls, installed skylights, built staircases, and filled the shelves with 10,000 borrowed books from the Chicago Public Library. On camera, it looked perfect, a cathedral of adolescence filled with sunlight and dust. But off camera, it was unbearable. There was no air conditioning, and the blazing stage lights pushed the temperature above 43 degrees Celsius. Cast members later recalled sweating through their clothes, makeup, melting tempers flaring. That heat seeped into the film, giving every frame a restless tension that mirrored the emotional claustrophobia of detention itself. The irony is poetic. A fake library built in a gymnasium created the truest portrayal of confinement and connection in 1980s cinema. Today, production designers still study that set for its realism and symbolism, proof that the walls we build to hold stories can sometimes feel more alive than the spaces we inhabit in real life. Fact number 6. Props that weren't what they seemed on screen. The Breakfast Club felt authentic. A film where every detail, from gestures to lunchboxes, appeared real. But the truth behind some of its most memorable props was much stranger. Take Allison's dandruff snow, that quiet moment when Ali Sheedy brushes white flakes over her pencil drawing. The flakes weren't dandruff at all, but Parmesan cheese. Under the hot stage lights, nothing else looked right. Real dandruff disappeared on camera and flour clumped too fast, so the crew improvised with what they had in the cafeteria. In the suffocating 43-degree heat of that gym-turned-library, the scent was reportedly overwhelming. The same went for the scene where the students pass around a joint, dissolving their differences in laughter and smoke. In an era of anti-drug campaigns and the Just Say No movement, the cast wasn't actually smoking marijuana, it was oregano. Harmless, aromatic, and perfectly camera-friendly. Those little cheats were standard in 1980s filmmaking, but in hindsight, they add a surreal layer to the production. The rebellion was fake, yet the connection was real. Hollywood's illusions were everywhere, but The Breakfast Club used them not to deceive, but to draw attention to something deeper. That identity itself, like movie props, is often constructed. And in those hours of detention, when the masks fell away, what remained was pure, uncomfortable truth. Fact number 5. Judd Nelson's method acting nearly got him fired. If John Bender felt unpredictable, it's because the actor behind him, Judd Nelson, refused to stop being Bender even after the cameras stopped. At 24, Nelson immersed himself in the role with the kind of obsessive commitment more common in modern method acting. He reportedly shadowed real high school students, claiming his father was in jail, studying how teenagers moved, spoke, and rebelled. That research gave him authenticity on screen, but off-screen, it caused tension. Nelson stayed in character between takes, taunting co-stars, especially Molly Ringwald, with the same abrasive energy his character wielded in the film. It reached a point where John Hughes considered firing him mid-production. The set had become divided until Paul Gleason, who played Principal Vernon, intervened. The irony was cinematic. The man playing authority saved the rebel from being expelled. Hughes, known for his calm leadership, decided to keep Nelson channeling that real friction into performance. The result was raw power. Bender wasn't just acted, he was lived. That volatility helped define the film's tension, and ultimately its truth. Looking back, the incident mirrors a question that still haunts Hollywood. How far should actors go for authenticity? Nelson's rebellion nearly destroyed the film, yet it also birthed one of the most enduring icons of cinematic youth. A fine line, one that The Breakfast Club walked with the same dangerous grace as its misunderstood hero. Fact number 4. Simple Minds didn't want their biggest hit. Few songs in movie history have fused with their film as completely as Don't You Forget About Me. That soaring chorus defined The Breakfast Club as much as any performance. Yet Simple Minds, the Scottish band behind it, didn't even want to record it. The song was written by producer Keith Forsey specifically for the movie, but several major artists, including Brian Ferry and Billy Idol declined. When the offer reached Simple Minds frontman Jim Kerr, called the lyrics too sentimental and turned them down until his wife Chrissie Hynde of The Pretenders convinced him otherwise. The band reluctantly recorded the track in just 3 hours, thinking little of it. But when paired with the film's closing shot, Judd Nelson's fist raised high against the morning sky, something miraculous happened. The song became the voice of a generation. It climbed to #1 on the US charts and became an anthem for youth identity across the Atlantic. What began as a reluctant studio session evolved into cultural permanence. Its hypnotic rhythm echoed the movie's theme, that a single moment, however unplanned, can define who we are. Decades later, that final chord still plays in car radios, school reunions, and nostalgic playlists, reminding everyone that Rebellion 2 can be remembered with warmth. Fact number 3. The casting that could have changed everything. Behind the simplicity of 5 teenagers in detention lay a casting process filled with near disasters. John Hughes almost handed the role of John Bender to John Cusack, whose version reportedly lacked the edge the director wanted. Nicolas Cage was next in line, but his rising fee made him unattainable for a modest teen drama. Before long, even the janitor's role nearly derailed. Rick Moranis, fresh off Ghostbusters, was initially cast as Carl, but his eccentric comedic interpretation clashed with Hughes's grounded tone. In the end, Judd Nelson replaced Cusack, and John Kapelos took over as Carl, grounding the film with quiet depth. These choices changed everything. Without them, the fragile chemistry between characters might have collapsed. Nelson's dangerous charisma balanced Ringwald's vulnerability. Kapelos's realism anchored the film's melancholy humor. Hollywood's history is littered with what-ifs, but The Breakfast Club remains one of its great accidents of perfection. A film assembled not by flawless planning, but by intuition, luck, and timing. Each near miss contributed to its alchemy, reminding us that cinema's magic often hides behind moments of almost failure. Today, casting directors still cite the film as a masterclass in ensemble dynamics, proof that the right mix of strangers can create something eternal. Fact number 2. The roles that almost went to someone else in a film where every personality had to balance the other's casting was like fine chemistry. Even the actors who made it to the screen nearly played different characters. Emilio Estevez originally auditioned for the role of John Bender, the rebel who pushed every limit. John Hughes admired his energy, but couldn't find a believable jock for the script's athletic character. So Estevez was reassigned to play Andrew Clark, the wrestler, haunted by his father's expectations. That single decision reshaped the film's tone. It gave the athlete a beating heart, a vulnerability rarely shown in 1980s teen cinema. Meanwhile, Molly Ringwald, then the face of teenage innocence, lobbied passionately to play Allison Reynolds, the strange and introverted outsider. Hughes, however, believed her talent could humanize Claire, the privileged princess. Against her instincts, she accepted, and in doing so turned a stereotype into a soul. Claire was no longer just the rich girl. She was a young woman trapped by social performance. Those reassignments created a rare emotional balance. Each archetype, brain, athlete, basket case, princess, and criminal, now felt authentic rather than exaggerated. Behind the camera, Hughes trusted intuition over rigidity, creating the alchemy that still captivates audiences 4 decades later. In the language of filmmaking, it was a masterstroke of empathy disguised as casting. Fact number 1. The best moments weren't scripted. Every great story has its miracle, a moment that no one planned, but that defines everything. In The Breakfast Club, that miracle came twice. First, during the raw confessional circle near the film's end, Hughes abandoned the script and told his actors to improvise. He asked them to recall their own memories of fear, shame, and loneliness. The result was electric 5 young performers exposing their real hearts. Their words weren't neat. They trembled, overlapped, contradicted one another. But that messy honesty became the emotional core of the film. Then in the final moments came Judd Nelson's improvised fist pump, a gesture of triumph and release that wasn't in the script at all. Hughes saw it, recognized its truth, and kept it. Paired with "Don't You Forget About Me," it froze a generation in one perfect frame, the rebel walking into adulthood, victorious but uncertain. Those unscripted choices gave The Breakfast Club its immortality. They remind audiences that authenticity can't be choreographed. It happens when art stops trying to be perfect and simply tells the truth. And perhaps that's why 40 years on this story about 5 teenagers in detention still feels alive, because it wasn't polished into greatness, it stumbled into it. Nearly 4 decades later, The Breakfast Club endures not as a relic of 1980s cinema, but as a mirror one that still reflects how fragile and extraordinary growing up can be. What began as a simple Saturday detention evolved into a timeless conversation about identity, rebellion, and empathy. Its behind-the-scenes chaos, from scrapped storylines and overheated sets to last-minute improvisations, revealed a truth that few films capture. Art, like adolescence, is most powerful when it refuses to follow the rules. The 12 stories behind its making remind audiences that imperfection breeds authenticity. A line from David Bowie, a protest from Molly Ringwald, a forgotten reel of film, and a spontaneous fist pump, each moment stitched together the fabric of something immortal. These weren't just production anecdotes. They were lessons in courage, vulnerability, and creative trust. And now, as generations rediscover it through streaming documentaries and nostalgia playlists, The Breakfast Club continues to whisper the same quiet message that everyone, no matter how different, carries the same longing to be understood. Of the 12 facts, above which one surprised you the most? Was it the lost footage, the improvised ending, or the detail hidden in a janitor's plaque? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your memories keep the story alive. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through cinema's past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories from the golden age of film. See you in the next video. This is TV Time Capsule.